guys like the movie? Before we continue, I would like to invite down one other person to do the Q&A with me, the editor of the film, Aaron Deck, who's somewhere in the audience. Yeah, Aaron! Woo! I met Erin. She edited my last film, The Barons, and I fell in love with her, and I was like, you're coming to LA and you're going to cut The Devil's Carnival in my garage. So, thank you very much. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out and being here. So, we're going to make this very informal. If you guys have questions, we're going to answer them. So, raise your hands and let's get to it. We'll start right there, Hobo Clown. You're going to come back to that question at the very end. I know what you're going to ask me. I'm going to come back to that at the very end. So just stay there. I promise to come back to it at the very end. You guys don't want to know what he's going to ask. Let's ask another question. Yes, over here to the right.
So what's the deal with episode 2? Yeah.
Episode 2. So this, hopefully you guys can tell, was conceived of as a TV series. Kind of the idea was Terrence and I got together and we both really, really loved Tales from the Crypt. And we both kind of had the same feeling about Glee. So let's make Tales from the Crypt meets the anti-Glee. That being said, so we've already written part 2. We're in the middle of writing part 3. And if we continue on like we're doing right now, and we continue to get theaters to show us and you guys to keep showing up, we'll keep making them. So, you know, spread the word. If you liked it, tell your friends, and that'll help us make part 2. We're just staring at the stage. There's like blood droplets everywhere. It's pretty awesome.
There's literally blood on the stage.
Way in the very back. I see someone's hand raised. Or not. All right. Yes, right here. Yes.
Okay, so if hopefully, fucking awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
If you guys were able to do the second one, you said you already written it. Are we going to expect three people being brought down to hell each episode, or will it more entail like 4 people, 2 people, 1 people?
Can I tell them a little bit about it? Get ready for heaven. And if you think here's kind of our idea, is that we thought it was kind of interesting. What if Lucifer was the hero and God was the villain? That being said, exactly. Well, that being said, heaven is going to be a lot darker than hell, and the fact, so just I think you're going to get to see the equivalent of heaven's carnies, and that'll be part 2, hopefully. But then part 3 is pretty badass as well. I kind of want to tell you about. In one of the future episodes, in part 3, actually, we have a duet between Clown from Slipknot and Emily Autumn. Other questions? Yes. No, I'm not. Are you going to ask the question? Okay, go ahead. I mean, listen, I love Anthony Head, as you saw. He was in that little opening bit that we did. We're fans with them and we're friends with them. But it comes down to when you're making a movie on a macro budget, and I mean, we shot the movie in 7 days. We recorded the album in 1 day. We had very, very little time and less money. And so, I mean, both of them, specifically Anthony, lives overseas. And so that one plane ticket was more than our entire budget of the movie. So it comes down to if we have the ability, obviously, yes. Sarah was actually herself going to record one of the opening things as well. And just due to she was recording her own album right now. We were not able to work it out schedule-wise. But yeah, we're still friends with them. And I would say we want everyone in Repo back in this to some extent.
Yes. Any other questions?
Oh.
Yes.
Are you thinking of doing it like the Divine Comedy and having a purgatory episode?
No. Maybe season 2.
Yes, right here.
Okay, this is nerdy, but I'm okay with that. So, when you sing, and when you hit those low notes, I'm a very low singer for a female, but what is that feeling you get? Like,
I think someone's been sitting on the speakers when I hit those low notes. Next question. Well, there's about 600 Aesop fables, and so there's no shortage of source material for future episodes. And I've actually read through all of them a few times, and there's multiple versions of those fables. But my process was to kind of read through them and grab a bucket full that I thought were not only interesting to me, but would make good dramatic narratives for a film. And then beyond that, it was trying to find 3 that had very different feelings to them. So the merrier one, obviously, to me is the most simple of the fables, which is don't be greedy. The scorpion and the frog is a little more complicated in the sense that continually I get people asking me, what was Tamara's sin? Apparently being a perpetual victim in some people's eyes is actually an okay thing. But in hell it's not. And then the last one, which I think is the most interesting to me, and probably the least common of a cautionary tale, which is grief in its due. And the basic notion, of course, is about at some point, if you don't let go, you're in the wrong. So that was kind of the process, and I've got some interesting ones selected for the next one, so hopefully you'll enjoy those as well.
I'm going to call out someone in the audience, but before I want to kind of preface why they're being called out. We did this movie, we did this whole thing for basically no money, and it was something that we did based on people's belief in the project or passion. Like, for example, we had just ended the Barons, and I told Aaron, I said, listen, this is going to sound really crazy, but will you edit this for no money and come and do this for no money, and I can't even feed you, but it'd be fun. And for some reason she said, okay. But it's crazy because you're looking at the actors in this thing. I'm sure we have some play grads in the audience. No one? Some Skinny Puppy fans, from Slipknot fans. Getting these cast members was probably one of the easiest things we've done. And the fact that we reached out to them, we gave them the script that Terrence wrote, and they got it. And it's amazing when people get it. And because of that, I want to single out someone that put numerous hours in this project, and without him, it wouldn't look the way it did, and that's Sean Schofield. Stand up for a second. Sean is responsible for every piece of artwork you see on the t-shirts that you're wearing, on the character cards, on the poster. Thank you, Sean, so much. And again, for those Repo fans in the house, Sean was also the one that made all the propaganda art. So, thank you for being with us. Let's do a couple more questions. Yes, right here in front.
All right. Well, I actually have a double-part question, but my first question is, Terrence, as you starting out, do you have any comments? Because as for I actually want to pursue acting as a career and actually make something out of it. But do you have any comments you would say to a future actor or someone who's just trying to start out?
I'm probably the last person you should ask in that regard. And that's not to dismiss your question, although rather, kind of like what we're doing tonight, I've never really played by the rules. And I'm sure most actors that work consistently, and I'm not one of those people, is your job is to audition for a part. As a writer, that just doesn't work for me. I want the part, if that makes sense. So my advice, I just want to, if I'm going to do it, I want it to be cool. I want it to be something I relate to, and hopefully something the audience will relate to. So instead of spending years auditioning, which I think is what most actors do, and some are very successful at it, I spend years writing a vehicle that I would want to see made, and hopefully has a role in it that I would want to play. But that's my path, and I think that's an unusual path for a performer. But I also identify with myself as being more of a writer than a performer. That said, hope you like Lucifer.
Can I answer part of that as well? I think that one thing, my piece of advice to you is this thing I give to every single person out there that asks this, is you can't be scared of failing. And I think that what separates me from you right now has nothing to do with talent. It has zero to do with talent. It has zero to do with, in fact, I would how many artists are in the house? Filmmakers, painters, writers, costumers. Okay. What separates those that I think have made it and done something, and those that are still waiting for that one thing, their repo, their Devil's Carnival, is not talent. It's the ability and desire that they're scared of failing. And I think I can say with Terrence and I, is that we have both failed numerous times, and we're not scared of it. In fact, I have failed 1,000,000 times more than I've succeeded. In fact, I would say if right now I'm a failure, you only hear about the successes. You hear about the Saw 2s or the Saw 3s, but you don't hear about the 50 films I've been fired from, or let go from, or replaced from while doing production. You don't hear about that. Because you see a movie come out and it says, oh, Saw 2 directed by, or Repo directed by. But you don't see the 80 films in between. Years of my life devoted on projects that I get replaced from. And I think that the only difference between those that are successful and those that are not, you have to have a vision, obviously, but you have to not only understand failure, you have to embrace it, because you're going to be met with all of these brick walls and obstacles. They're going to hit you every single step of the way. A lot of people turn around, they're like, I can't deal with this. Depression, you're going to have to deal with depression, because that's going to happen. But eventually, you're going to hit your movie, whether that be the Devil's Carnival, the Repo, or the Saw, whatever movie it is you respond to, you're going to hit it. And I think that it makes that success feel that much cooler, because you know that you've hit 99 brick walls, but you got through one of them. And it's all about getting through that one brick wall. So that would be my advice to that question. Let's do a couple more questions. Yes, over here to the right. We'll do the girl in the blue shirt. Yes.
Why Carnival?
Why not? It's cool, it's sexy, it's dark. I mean, to me, Terrence and I, when we first started the idea, we kind of based it on dark rides. Like, if you go to Disneyland or Disney World, the rides like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, or Winnie the Pooh, seriously, or Peter Pan, those rides that were or even the Haunted Mansion, and the fact that you put in this kind of weird car and you're forced to look at 2D flats that are painted to look 3D. And I think there's something cool about that. And those that have been to carnivals or old school carnivals, you know, a lot of them have that. And I think that whole idea spawned itself from rides, those kind of old carny-like rides. And even now, if you go to those old haunted houses in carnivals, you know, with the Hall of Mirrors, that kind of stuff, with the 2D flats painted, I think it started from there. Terrence, do you have anything? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the moment.
I was just asking Erin, since she hasn't had a chance to chime in yet, if she likes seeing her name up on the big screen. Yeah!
Talking to the microphone. That's weird. Yeah, it was great.
Did you guys like seeing her name on the big screen?
I mean, seriously, well, I'm sure there are, again, filmmakers in the audience to talk about the editing of this thing, because we did it under an insane schedule.
Yeah, I got a few hard drives from Darren, FedExed here to Toronto, because that's where I live, and just started working around the clock, because he pretty much said, okay, here's like 100 hours of footage, can you cut it in a week and a half? Yeah, basically, what should have taken me 2 months. And then, but you know, as soon as I saw like the first frame, which was actually Tamara when she is chasing the scorpion right before the scorpion song, and I saw how amazing it looked, I was just like, this is going to be something like amazing. And it was, I've never cut a musical before, but Darren is brilliant at directing, and the music and the script was so well written that everything just came together so well. And then going down to LA was exciting. And I lived in behind Darren's pool and looked after Chance for a while.
my cat.
And your cat Zoe.
The real reason I brought him down was we just like our cat very much, and so we just said, come down and watch the cat. So that's basically it. Let's do 2 more questions, and we're gonna call it now. Okay. Yes, right here to the right.
When will we be seeing it on DVD?
Yes.
It's a hard question to answer. We were talking about it before with some of the ringmasters. The reality is this, is that we really can't think past tonight. This whole thing came together. So an example, I had a movie I filmed a few years ago called Mother's Day. And something I'm very proud of to this day. I'm we actually had some of the crew members on Mother's Day in the audience tonight as well. I'm very proud of the movie. It's probably one of my favorite films that I've done. We shot that in 2009, and it's still not out yet. 3 years passed, and it's just now being released in America next week. And you know, that's crazy, and it kills as an artist. You just die inside because you make something you want the world to see, and you have to sit back and wait years and years and years for it to finally come out. We finally decided we were going to make this movie on January 1st, and we're here now on April and May. And it happened that quickly that we said, fuck it, let's just do it ourselves. My point being is the fact that the reason we made this movie was for us, because we knew that the Repo fans made Repo what it is, and that, you know, we had this movie we made that was basically dumped into obscurity. It was in a handful of screens, not even a handful of screens, and it was because the fans picked the movie up that it became what it is now. I found out this theater shadowcast it every couple of months, and all over the world it happens. And so we said, let's do something. Let's not ask permission. Let's not go to try to have someone else do it. Let's you and I go do it with our friends. And so we called up Spooky Dan, and we called up some of our friends and said, we want to make this, you know, new musical. Will you help us? And we got all of our friends to go do it. And it happened so quickly. We didn't even hit the ground running. It was like we hit the ground in a marathon, trying to get the thing done. And we finally finished it. And immediately when we finished it, it was kind of ridiculous. We said, put tickets on sale. Let's just force ourselves to get on the road. Put tickets on sale immediately. And so we picked, you know, 35, 40 markets, and tickets were on sale. And we're like, how the fuck are we going to do this? And we had no idea how the hell we were going to get from Los Angeles to Toronto in a van with 6 people, let alone how are we going to get the merch made? How are we going to do whatever? And so right now, we're still in that mad marathon session running, trying to figure out how we're going to make it to the next city. And that being said, is that there's no one thinking ahead. There's no studio or there's no production company that's thinking, okay, the DVD comes out this day, it's going to be on VOD this day. It's literally 7 people in a van that's running this entire corporation right now. And so literally all I'm thinking about is where am I going to get drinks after this ends tonight. That's as far as I'm But the answer is yes, it will be on DVD at some point. Let us finish the road tour next week, and then we'll focus on to how we're going to get the DVD out.
Okay, go to the Horseshoe Tavern.
We might have been at the Horseshoe Tavern when you guys were watching the movie. I'm just saying. Very, very back right there. Yes. Yes. No, I wasn't talking. You sit down. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
Can you, like, sing, like,
That's up to him. I ain't answer that.
Yeah.
That's 2 requests.
You know, I was going to do something like in this vein, but I'm going to fuck you up and just do like a romantic ballad. I'm sure you guys have this experience, like when you're listening to something and it becomes on a repeat of 1. This Tom Waits song has been going through my head recently. If I can remember the lyrics. If you don't want these arms to hold you, if you don't want these lips to kiss you, if you've gone and found someone new, then throw me back in the crowd. Throw me back in the crowd. Throw me back in the crowd.
one last question. So who's got a good question? Okay, you that's freaking out in the back right now. Let's go ahead. Surprised it took this long to get to that question. Is there going to be a Repo sequel? Here's the reality. First off, did you guys like the Repo documentary? Put together by Laura, my beautiful wife, and Spooky Dan. So guys, good job. Here's the reality. We don't own Repo anymore. And we have, here's the equivalent of asking the question, is there going to be a Repo sequel? We had a car in high school and we sold it to get to college. Now I'm in the workforce 10 years later, like, can I go wreck and redrive that car? It's not mine. It stopped being ours long ago. Now we fought and we cried and we groveled and we pleaded to do things with Repo. And we were able to do the Repo Road Tour and we were able to do other kind of like screenings of Repo. But the reality is, you know, I don't know how many times I've asked for a Repo director's cut, or to fix the subtitles on the disc, or little things like that. And you know, at one point years ago, we had ideas for prequels and sequels, and I'm sure that I asked if I were to go back to the crew that's here right now and say, hey, we're going to come back, we're doing a Repo sequel. I'm pretty sure we can assemble 95% of the Repo crew.
I like that they're all looking down.
I know. But it's not ours anymore, and that's why Terrence and I made Devil's Carnival. We were sick and tired of sitting there asking for permission, asking to do things. And we finally said, you know what, screw it, let's just do it ourselves and let's not have to ask anyone ever again. And so, with Devil's Carnival, it's ours. We own it. It's Terrence and mine. And we can show it here if we want to, or we can say we're not going to show it here, we're going to show it somewhere in Winnipeg. Or we can say we're going to make a sequel tomorrow. Or we can make a prequel tomorrow. It's ours. And I think that was kind of our response to the Repo sequel. Listen, I love Repo. It's my favorite film that I've been a part of, but it's someone else's now. And so that's not to say there'll never be one. I mean, listen, if you guys make enough noise on this thing and Lionsgate sees it, they might come back to us. But at this point right now, we're going to focus on things we can control. We can control this. So that's where we're putting our energy right now. Guys, I'm going to end it by saying this right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for coming out tonight. And I ask you two favors before you leave here. Favor number one is that we don't have a PR company. We seriously have you guys. The same people that made Repo what it is. We're asking you to help us with this right now and to talk about this movie when you leave. If you hated the movie, then talk about how bad it was. Bash her editing, bash Terrence is singing, and say I'm a douchebag as a director. I don't care. But what I don't want is silence, because silence, the whole reason that it's taken this long for there to be anything Repo related is they still think there isn't an audience for that type of movie. And when we originally talked about doing this, we did go to people, and they're like, there's not an audience for that. And because of that, movies like this don't get made. So we want to prove that there is an audience for these type of films, that the disenfranchised, the freaks, the weirdos, that all that fuck them, so I asked you to talk about it. Secondly, the whole way we're able to do this tonight, we're able to come out and do this is through the soundtracks and through the merchandise that we're selling. The merchandise is funding this tour right now. It's allowing us to do all of this. So hopefully you guys liked what you saw, and we encourage you to please hit the merch table, because that's helping us be able to do this and make part two. So guys, I'm going to turn you back over to Stephanie. Thank you guys so much.